So ever since our budget 2025 has been announced, we could see that many of us are in cloud nine, especially with the refined tax slabs. But I still feel that we need some clarity on this. Could you please clarify further on this?
Sure, definitely.
So the first question that I got to hear from many of us is that the budget slab has been, adjusted where up to the income of 12 lakhs, there is absolutely zero taxation. But what about people who are having income above 12 lakhs? Is there any way that they can also escape from this tax slab?
Yes. It's a good question because there are so many people who are in the border, slightly above 12 lakhs, and people even who are, even levels more than that. I'm sure there are a lot of people who would also want to have, in addition, if there is anything, because what happens with the new tax regime is there is no provision for exemptions, which is there in the old tax regime. However, the new rebate of up to 12 lakhs is only applicable on the new tax regime. So people would be wondering, is everything over with that rebate, and is there anything additionally which is available? There are certain scope of people getting additional benefit of taxation above this 12 lakhs. So just let's see what are this. So now the largest benefit apart from this 12 lakhs is going to come from NPS. Even in the last budget, it was announced that the only exemption which is allowed in the new tax regime will be NPS, that is the contribution through the employer, which is on a basic, and above on the basic, it will be 14%. So 14% of the basic contributed in NPS through the employer will also be exempted, which is the only benefit of exemption in new tax regime. So now let's see a case here. So while you said 12 lakhs, this goes up to 12.75 lakhs for the salaried class, including the standard deduction. So salaried class up to 12.75 lakhs, there is no tax to be paid. Now let's consider a case where a person is having an income of 13.7 lakhs.
Okay.
So 13.7 lakhs, there is a good chance their basic salary will be in the range of 6-7 lakhs. So let's presume 6.85 lakhs as the basic. So his total income is 13.7 lakhs. He has a basic of 6.85 lakhs. So this 6.85 lakhs of this 14% contributed to NPS is going to be exempted. So this 14% works out to 95,900 rupees. That is on 6.85 lakhs, which is 14%. So this 95,900 is also going to be exempted. So the actual income of 13.7 lakhs, the taxable income reduces by this amount of 95,900, and now the net taxable income comes down to 12.75 lakhs. So though his overall income is 13.7 lakhs, because of this NPS contribution, he brings down below 12.75 lakhs and he's still at zero tax. This is one. Number two, senior citizens, earlier in the case of interest earned by them, if the interest was more than 50,000 rupees, there was TDS deducted. Now, there is exemption up to 1 lakh, and if the interest is only more than 1 lakh, then there is going to be TDS deducted, which is a big boon for senior citizens who generally only depend on interest income or a rental income. Number three, earlier, if there was a person who was owning a residential property which was given on rent, on the rent received, if the rent received was more than 20,000 rupees, which is 2.4 lakhs in a year, TDS need to be deducted on the rent. Now, only if the rent is 50,000 rupees in a month, which is 6 lakhs or more than 6 lakhs, more than 6 lakhs in a year, only then TDS need to be deducted. So somebody who's rented property also is getting an exemption, an extended limit from 20,000 to 50,000, which also is a relief to somebody who is renting out property. Next, if there was somebody who had a self-occupied property, there were conditions for the property to be treated as having no rental value or no annual value. So now there is a relaxation on that as well. This will also give some relief to investors or common people.
Okay. So based on what you said, can you please throw more light on the benefit of owning self properties?
So earlier, somebody can have two residential properties. One property is used by him, he is occupying it. So in this case, he don't have to declare a notional rental income because he is occupying it. So there is no rent component which can be treated as his income. But the second property, only if this property was purely used for residential purposes for his consumption, only then this property doesn't have an annual value. Else, there is a notional income which is supposed to be treated as a taxable income and there is tax payable on that. So now what happens? There is no condition. So there were conditions earlier. The conditions are, it has to be purely self-occupied for residential purpose. If there was any commercial motive, if the occupation is for some commercial motive, for utilization of business purposes, this exemption was not allowed earlier. Now, there is very clear and very straightforward. Up to two properties can be taken as self-occupied property with no conditions. Up to two property, there is no rent to be treated, no notional rent to be treated on that. So which means earlier the second property might have been taxed. Now the second property, there is no notional rental income to be taken and there is no tax to be paid. So now, earlier we told NPS, then we talked about senior citizens where the TDS amount is extended. We also talked about the TDS on rent. Now we talk about the self-occupied properties. So there are 4 ways where somebody get benefit over and above the 12 lakh level.
Okay. So looking at a new budget, 2025, I see that they have announced taxation on ULIPs, which wasn't there earlier. So can you please elaborate more on this?
So what happened up to almost 4 years back, around 2021, ULIPs, up till then, regardless of the premium amount which you pay, after 5 years, when you exit or when you make redemptions, the amount is completely tax-free. The amount which you withdraw is to be completely tax-free, regardless of how big the premium was. There was no limit. Then, from 2021 onwards, if the premium paid was only up to 2.5 lakhs, then this benefit, which is under section 1010D, is applicable. And the moment your annual premium was more than 2.5 lakhs, the redemption from ULIPs were treated as capital gains and it was taxed. Now there is a twist, which is a negative twist for ULIP investors. If the policy was taken after 1st February 2021, even if the premium was less than 2.5 lakhs, any of these policies which will be redeemed hereafter will also be taxed and there is no 1010D benefit which is going to be applicable. So it will be treated as capital gains, and like you pay taxes in mutual funds, even premiums of 2.5 lakhs are lesser. In that case also the ULIP withdrawals are going to be taxable.
So moving on, so far we discussed how we individuals are benefited from this tax regime. But can you tell me which are the businesses that will benefit from this new tax regimes, that is especially for the individuals?
So let's take the probability of who are going to be benefited.
Okay.
As per the finance minister, almost 1 crore people are going to get benefited because of the change in benefit, which is the rebate increasing to 12 lakhs. So our country, as such, the population of youth is more than 50%. It's more than 50% youth. Now, if you take the benefit, majorly is going to come to people who are more than 7 lakhs, because up to 7 lakhs earlier also it was not taxed. So the additional benefit is going to come to people who are more than the 7 lakh annual income range. So if you take particularly, you take the 7 lakh to 12 lakh, where it is completely tax-free, zero tax. So this 7 lakh to 12 lakh predominantly will be the income of people who are in the 20s and 30s, right? So among the people who are in the higher salaries, most of the people who are under the 7 to 12 lakhs bracket will be in the 20s and 30s. So in a country where already the youth population is 50% plus, when this benefit is going to come more in this range, it is quite possible 60 to 70% of the people who are going to benefit from this are youth, or who are in the 20s and 30s. So what will the youth generally go and do? They will first go and spend, which is it goes into expenses, consumption. So it is quite natural, while we can advise, still extempo what comes is spend. And where all would they primarily spend? One is mobile phones. It can be any other gadgets like, laptops. Then they may go for two-wheeler, four-wheelers. Then they may look about spending lavishly in restaurants, going to movies, right? And anything which has entertainment, they may go for a tour, tourism. So if you take, this is what primarily going to happen, because we are talking about the youth. Then there might be people who would want to be wise enough to do savings and investment, which may come only after this. but there also is a possibility that some amount may go there. So when we talk about this kind of an expenses, savings and investment, which all businesses happen to be part of the beneficiaries, it's very clear. Companies which are into mobile manufacturing, anybody who provides accessories for mobile, then anybody who's into laptop and ancillary manufacturers of laptop. Next will be your even gaming companies, right? They may spend more on that. So gaming companies may get benefited. E-commerce companies, like the Amazon may not be listed here, right? Flipkarts may be getting benefited. The Septos, which is expected to get listed sometime soon, will get benefited. Then you will have these Zomatos and Swiggies, which are already listed. These companies also will get benefited. Then, of course, the hotels, then any business which is related to tourism, again hotels, and anybody is into tourism-related activity. These are the companies which will primarily get benefited because of the expenditure they do. Next, savings. Savings, the benefit may go little to the banks because youth generally may not keep money idle in the banks. They may keep it temporarily. Banks might be a minor beneficiary because it has to come to the bank and then go to the investments. In our route, it has to go through the proper white channel. So it will come to the bank, actually temporarily stay there. There is a minor benefit. The larger benefit of this investment bit will go mainly to the companies which are into investments like mutual funds, insurance, the online tech-oriented fintechs. All this will get benefited because the investments will be routed through them. Then one thing which we missed is also the two-wheeler companies and also four-wheeler companies. So these are the companies which are broadly expected to benefit. Then people who are probably in the mid-late 30s and some bit even in the late 20s, apart from this, they may also look at buying home because now they have a little more money to afford EMI payment for a home loan, right? So even real estate companies, particularly who are into residential properties, also will get benefited because of this particular activity which may also happen.
Okay. After we have come across all of this, how do you think people have to effectively utilize the remainings of the tax, which we don't have to pay anymore?
Correct. So literally speaking, somebody who was in the 12 lakh range earlier would have paid almost 80,000 rupees of tax. He's saving that now, right? So that's a substantial amount of savings. So now there will be people above that, who will also have proportionate kind of savings. So while we said it is mostly youth who are going to get this benefit, for them, most of them also have aspirations to retire early. So while they would want to have their experiences today for which they would want to spend, it's almost majority of them who want to retire at 50, 55. So for that, experiences alone, living in today alone will not help. So they have to save for the future. So I think there is a good possibility, even if they spend 50% of this, at least 50% should go into investment. So the easy route is mutual fund SIPs for them, and then they can look at also buying stocks with that savings. So if somebody is extra disciplined financially, you have to forget this savings for your expenses. Extra disciplined people, 100%. Because anyhow, you are at a juncture now, we are in February now, and in another 2 months and 3 months, almost all these guys who are salaried will have their increments in place. Because normally April, May, June is when people get their increments. Anyhow, this is what you anticipated. And this was not something which you really knew and it was not taken for granted. This has come as a bonus. Treat this as a bonus which you would have got and put everything into productive function of investing. And anyhow, your otherwise increment is going to come in the next 2-3 months. Think about expenditure from that. And again, fully not there. Even there, it should not be fully. Next, if somebody is paying a home loan, right? Paying home loan EMI, if he has taken a home loan and he's paying a EMI, then he would have paid X amount of EMI now. A part of this savings ideally should also go at increasing the EMI contribution. So which means if that is done, normally any advance payment of EMIs and increase in EMIs land up in you benefiting big time on the interest amount savings. There is big amount of savings which can come. So this may not benefit in a big way in a car loan or anything, but in a home loan, because your period of loans are generally 15 years and 20 years. People who are in the 20s and 30s still may have at least 10-15 years left. So the more EMI they pay in advance, a huge amount of interest is what they save. So let this amount go more into home loan EMI prepayments and also into investments through SIP and stocks. So this is how this can help you to retire early, and you can still have your enjoyment, you can have your experiences. But if this is also going to be your expectation of retiring early, then the money should go heavily into investments and saving interest on home loans. This is what primarily people should be looking at. Then something like an NPS, even if people did not do it last year, look at doing that as NPS, because NPS helps big time post retirement. So 14% from the salary, which is the basic salary, is also exempted. So people should look at definitely having maximum possible the full contribution of 14% of the salary going towards NPS. That is also going to help.
Thank you so much, sir. This was really informational and insightful for many of us. I think from here on, we all would be even more thoughtful with how we spend our money, and I'm sure like it will be useful for many of us. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.